As a companion to our trainings, we created a flexible set of practical tools, templates, and activities that can be used with staff and young people to increase intentional practices to support social and emotional learning. So this video provides an overview of what is in this freely available toolkit, and we're focusing on our third strategy, which is around designing impactful learning experiences for young people. So this section of the toolkit has activities that focus on developing all 4 of the ways of being. So these activities allow youth to explore their individual and community identity, which is our ways I am, to practice sharing gratitude and communicating our feelings, which is our ways of feeling. And they're going to learn about empathy and setting group norms, which falls under our ways of relating. And finally, they'll develop clear goals and work towards consensus, which falls under our ways of doing. So you'll also find other tools like how to build an emotion word bank and an SEL reading list for young people, but they're all grounded in our ways of being model. Okay. Meet the WOBBIES. So WOBBIES are case narratives of individual youth who are navigating through one or more parts of our ways of being model, the WOB. And the stories of these 7 characters can be then used to spark conversation among young people about the social emotional skills that are at play in these different stories, as well as think about their own social and emotional learning development. The WOBBIES were created in partnership with a team of diverse young people as part of the Youth Voice Project on youth ways of being. So before this activity, consider introducing the ways of being model so that young people and staff do have a common language for talking about social and emotional learning. The identity wheel is an activity to use with young people to help them think critically about how they see themselves and how they believe the world sees them. So identity shapes the expression of social and emotional skills and informs how we define which skills are most important to us. So in this activity, young people practice self-awareness and reflection as they think about the different segments of their identity. What about them is important? And so they have a chance to create wheels like the ones you see on the slide. The mask making activity is another activity to help young people really express their identity. It's an art activity that involves decorating both the inside and the outside of a mask. So it's sort of a self-assessment of who they are and how they show up for others. So what happens is they get in pairs. Young people will interview their partner to find out what are their interests, what are their talents, and the partner's going to decorate the outside of their mask. And then youth will decorate the inside of the mask when they think about who are they on the inside? What do people maybe, don't they easily see or know about you, right, on the surface? And then they share their masks as a way of getting to know each other and debriefing the activity. All right, this next activity is the SEL Superpower board game. And this was actually designed by a participant in one of our SEL trainings. She created a life-sized superhero board game where young people physically moved on a board. As they worked their way around the board, they had an opportunity then to do different things. And so we adapted what she created to be a tool that you can use from our toolkit. Again, young people then are going to be moving around the board game, and as they land in different places, they have an opportunity to practice naming and managing their emotions. They get to practice empathy when they physically change places with the person behind them, for example. And there's some scenarios where they get to practice being assertive instead of aggressive when they respond to different scenarios. So it's just a fun way to kind of bring social emotional learning into an activity or game for young people. Knowing our emotions is an activity based on the Pixar animated film Inside Out. And this film takes place in the head of an 11-year-old girl named Riley, and it features 5 key emotions here: sadness, joy, fear, disgust, and anger, through these 5 characters who kind of help Riley navigate the ups and downs of her life. So this activity helps participants to kind of really better understand the role of emotions and our ways of feeling in Riley's life and their own. So as you watch the film, there's a handout to help young people think through, for each of those emotion characters, what is the job of that character? What do they sound like, look like, feel like? So it's just a companion to really bringing home the social emotional learning aspects of the film Inside Out. So the Complaint Feeling Request Activity, or CFR, was shared with us from our friends with Voyager Outward Bound School. It's a activity that they teach and reinforce throughout participation in their program as a kind of norm for how young people can express when they have a complaint, what they would like to have happen. So the example being, someone might complain, "Hey, Jesse, my complaint is that you don't wipe off your shoes before walking into the tent. It makes me feel angry because the tent floor gets dirty. And so please use the rug to wipe off your shoes or take your shoes off before coming inside," right? And then Jesse could respond saying, I hear your point. I'll make sure to wipe off my shoes before I come inside next time. So the person receiving the feedback responds with how they would address the concern. And so it's just a strategy to think about as a way to kind of create that norm within your program for how young people can express and communicate perhaps an issue or conflict through a one-on-one conversation. All right, for the power of empathy, this is an opportunity to use the animated short called The Power of Empathy, which is really Dr. Brene Brown explaining some of the differences between empathy and sympathy. And so you watch a short, I think it's a 3-minute video, where you see these characters kind of demonstrating the difference, and then you can have young people really explore their own ways of relating through practicing empathy with others. So you have young people get in groups of 3, and each person in the group takes on a different role, right? So the one person would be the fox, and that person is someone who's willing to talk about a challenge that they're having in their life. So depending on the maturity of the group, you might consider giving youth scenarios. They might be things like, oh, you got a low grade on your test, or you've lost a pet, you've got some conflict with a friend. But it often works well to have the fox person just sharing a situation from their own life. And then the second person is the bear, and they're going to listen and really resist the urge of offering advice or try to fix the problem. So the bear might say things like, "It sounds like," or, "Thanks for sharing with me," right? They're really practicing their empathy skills. And then the third person is the reindeer, who gets to offer silver linings and really kind of tries to say things like "at least" to really remove themselves from the difficulty of the conversation. So again, it works well to have the 3, and even though people know they're playing those roles, it really reinforces the importance of and how helpful an empathetic response can be. All right, the next activity is 8 arrows, and this activity really allows participants to acknowledge what they can commit to bringing to a group and identify the impact of their shared commitment. So you can see through the 8 arrows, you've got those dark redder arrows are pointing out at the 4 corners, but there's also created 4 white arrows in that negative space about what kind of comes in. So this, again, would fall primarily in that ways of relating category, because youth are discussing how they're going to work as a team and what they're going to accomplish. So they're going to be sharing things that they're willing to contribute to the group project at hand. What are they bringing in, as well as things that they believe will result from their contribution, what's going to kind of be coming out of this group effort. All right, when someone claps twice, you can use this game with a group when they're kind of working together towards a goal that will benefit everyone. So the game helps youth practice their ways of doing by learning the important skill of teamwork. Setting and working towards goals is critical to the success of any group, and each member plays a part in the attainment of the goal. Participants experience in this game a concrete way how all group members play a role in reaching their goal, and consider how groups set and attain goals. So you work through a pattern, you follow a script. So we say when someone claps twice, stand up and say good morning. And then someone else has a piece of paper that says, okay, when somebody says good morning, get up and turn off the lights. And it kind of creates this chain reaction till we get to the final action. And then, you can debrief this as well to sort of see what worked, what didn't work, how well did they do. All right, goal sandwich. This is an activity to help young people identify a short-term goal and really create those concrete steps that they're going to need to complete that goal. We know goal setting is a crucial social emotional skill that helps youth plan for their future, right? So this activity really breaks down the process of goal setting into these easy, actionable steps using the analogy of a sandwich, right? So the bread frames the sandwich. It's the beginning and the end. And so youth can fold like a yellow piece of paper or card, kind of hamburger style, and title one side the present and one side the future. And so they're going to write on the present side their current challenge, like I'm failing biology. And then on the right, they're going to write what their goal would be. So I want to raise my biology grade to a B. The jelly gives the sandwich flavor, right? It's the motivation to take a bite. And we remind people then that they can't eat it all in one bite, right? The bites have to be manageable. So they titled this card the steps to their goal. And using different check boxes, you would instruct students to list at least 3 steps that they're going to have to go through to complete or accomplish their goal. And then peanut butter is tasty, but it's thick and it can slow down the eating of our sandwich. So this is our obstacle card. It's not to say that peanut butter eating slowly are bad things, but the illustration demonstrates how goals can be slowed down, right? So here you would instruct students to list 2 or 3 obstacles that might prevent or get in the way of accomplishing their goal. And then finally, milk. It helps the sandwich eating experience, right? It allows the sandwich to be eaten more easily. So here you're going to write people who can help me, and these are then those that can help with the how and why of goal setting. So on this card, you're going to ask students to list 2 or 3 people who can support them in completing their goal, recognizing that we do need to rely on others to help us get to where we want to be. And then the last toolkit item from this section that we'll share is the SEL reading list for youth. So you can use this resource to really support young people with books that build a positive sense of self, their ways I am, helps them be aware and navigate emotions, their ways of feeling, establish and maintain respectful relationships, their ways of relating, as well as setting and achieving goals, their ways of doing. So this is a list of tween and teen approved books that really encompass social emotional learning themes and feature characters that are demonstrating things like empathy. They have strong relationships with family and friends. They're looking at the world through another's eyes. And so these books were chosen to help readers learn more about things like self-esteem, compassion, diversity, perseverance, and other social and emotional skills. All right, so let's close out this third video again with some frequently asked questions about this section of the toolkit. The first one is really, so who are these activities targeting? And I would say that while the whole toolkit was really designed with middle school learners in mind, with adjustments, they can be adapted for a variety of audiences. So either older or younger or particular young people with particular needs or contexts. But again, it's up to you to figure out what would be the best way to apply them for the young people that you're working with. Our second question is there an order to these activities? And no, you can use activities in any order and you can modify them to meet your needs. We organize them around the parts of our ways of being model, right? So if you're focused on ways I am, you might want to, or identity issues, you might want to start there. And look to those activities, but there's no set order. They're just a bank of resources for you. The third frequently asked question is, well, what do I need to know or do in advance? So each of these activities has different sections, right? And they explain why this matters, right? And how this activity and the concepts connect to social emotional learning. And then there's a getting started section. So here's you're going to see any of the required materials, things you need to consider or prep in advance. And then there's a how to do it section. And this is a step-by-step instruction for the facilitator for how to walk through the activity with young people. And then our final frequently asked question is, how long does each activity take? I would say the activities are designed to fit into one program or class session. And then there are also some take it further sections for each item where you maybe will find a way you want to go further with that, and that may flow into another session. But generally, each activity will indicate the amount of time recommended for that, whether it's a 20-minute activity or a 30-minute activity, and they can be modified to fit the amount of time that you're working with in general. So that is the end of our third video. Again, you can download the entire toolkit at this link.